Everyone, I'm finally getting around to sending out the video for this week. It's a couple days later than I wanted it to be. I'm going to go ahead and blame that on Kaylee because she talked me into getting a new iPhone, and I've always been an Android person, so I've been struggling with tech. So what I've decided to do is just do it on my old phone and get it sent out. So we're just going to do one class today. I promised you guys Arabians, and we're going to look at some Arabians. I picked out some Arabians that I think should sort themselves out really easily. I think that it should, if you know anything at all about Arabians, it should sort itself out pretty quickly. And if not, that's no big deal because a lot of us are just learning. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you those Arabians, and I would like you to take notes and be prepared to give a set of reasons tomorrow at practice. And again, practice tomorrow is at 6 o'clock at the town hall. If you have any questions about how to get there or need the address again, just let me know and I can send that to you again. So we'll be there at 6. We'll try to keep it we'll try to keep it down to about an hour or so, and we'll do those reasons for our Arabians, talk a little bit about Arabians, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the Western Pleasure video that I hope you've all had time to look at, and then we'll end up the night with one more class that we're going to do reasons on. So let's get right to the Arabians here. So here we go. Here is your class. These are aged Arabian geldings, number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. Okay, I gave you about 25 seconds on each horse, knowing that you'll probably want to pause them and spend more time, so go ahead and do that. So I gave you 25 seconds on each horse. That's not enough time to write down notes, but it should have been enough time to pick out which horses look like Arabians and which ones don't. So remember when we talked about type, conformation, and balance. 2 of these horses, well actually 3 of these horses really look like Arabians and 1 doesn't. This horse, we'll talk more about this horse later, but this horse, okay, maybe it doesn't look like an Arabian. It looks more like an Arabian than this horse, correct? However, there are so many conformational flaws with this horse that even though this horse has almost no Arabian type other than its adorable head, we're still not going to put this horse last in the class. So we have 2 that really look like Arabians. You would know that no matter how far away you were, you would see those are Arabians. Then you have 1 that if it were put together, if it weren't for some of the major conformation flaws that it has, you would probably guess was an Arabian. And then you have 1 that somebody would probably have to tell you, especially if you didn't see his head, that that's an Arabian. So when we talk about type, these 2 horses definitely have Arabian type. These 2 really don't. So right away, and one of the reasons they don't have Arabian type is maybe because of some conformation flaws or some balance flaws. So when we talk about that formula of type, conformation, and balance, they all come together and very easily put these two horses in the top of the class. So hopefully you all saw that 2 and 3 would top our class. They would be our top pair, and 4 and 1 would be our bottom pair. Now, how do we split these up in between? So in my top pair, definitely number 2 is a much stronger overall quality Arabian than number 3. Number 3 has type. He, for the most part, has some decent conformation, although, you know, we can say that he doesn't quite have as many ideal characteristics that we're looking for in an Arabian as number 2 does. And he's overall balanced. So let's start with number 2. Number 2 has all the qualities that we're really looking for in an ideal Arabian. Number 1, and what jumps out at probably people the most, is look at his elegant neck. We want, and a term you can use when you're talking about Arabians, if you have to give reasons, is a swan-like neck. We want it to be thin, elegant, and correct. So you can say elegant, you can say swan-like, you can say arched. Where we talk about quarter horses and stock type horses, we would maybe more say an athletic neck or a trim neck. In Arabians, we would talk about elegant and swan-like. You can't really see this horse's head very well, but he might have a little bit of an overbite, and a lot of Arabians do. You kind of have to watch for that. But again, this is a gelding class, so we're not going to get too worried about that as long as he can hold a bit and chew his food. We're not going to get too worried about it. If it's super exaggerated, then we fault them. So that might be something you would grant in your reasons. It's hard to tell. It also looks like they're holding a treat, so he might just be sticking his lip out looking for that treat. They're probably holding it up to get his ears up, which they're not, super up. But one thing, if those of you who remember talking with Pam Whitfield last fall when we were getting ready for nationals, she talked about some terms in an Arabian's head, and tomorrow we'll talk about what they are and see if anybody remembers them. But we're looking for a dish in the horse's head, which, it's hard to tell at this angle if they have. We're looking for large, dark eyes. And we joke about a kind eye. We wouldn't say an Arabian has a kind eye. We would talk more maybe about expression and even the size of them. We want a large, expressive eye. We want small, tipped ears. This horse doesn't have the smallest ears. Again, that's a pretty picky thing overall when you look at this horse. But, an Arabian breeder would maybe want a little bit tinier ears that tip in toward the middle, tip in toward each other. Now moving down to his neck, a little tough to see with the mane, but definitely meets that qualification. Again, conformation-wise, excellent slope to the shoulder, and even though he's an Arabian, he shows some pretty nice muscling. Enough muscling that it doesn't overpower him, but also, you can see it and he looks fleshy and well filled out. He has correct straight legs. He has a correct angle to his pastern and length. Arabians sometimes suffer from a genetic condition where I'm focusing in on his pasterns here, where their pasterns will weaken or soften so that their fetlocks almost touch the ground, like they're so weak. And this Arabian definitely does not show signs of having that genetic condition. Then the other thing that jumps out at you overall in an ideal Arabian is the flatness of their croup. So this is the croup right here, from the point of the hip to the base of the tail. That's the croup, C-R-O-U-P. And we want that to be short and flat on an Arabian. Very different from a quarter horse Appaloosa or a paint, correct? We want a flat croup. Maybe not necessarily short, but flat. Actually, I'm going to look into that more, a little bit about how we want to talk about croups. Again, it's been so long since I've given reasons on Arabians that, but yeah, we want the croup to be in proportion with the rest of the body. And then finally, the hocks on this horse, they look a little bit more angular than we're used to seeing on a quarter horse. That's okay. So we don't really worry too much if there's a little bit sharper angles to their hocks. They still need to be correct and straight, but they can be not quite as coarse and round as we see on quarter horses. We'd like the tail to be upright. Ideally, this horse is holding it a little off to the side. And when you're judging Arabians, this is kind of a picky thing, but If all other things are equal and that tail is off to the side, that's actually a fault in Arabians. So we can talk about that more. We'll show some pictures tomorrow about what I'm talking about. But again, if you have a horse that looks like this compared to a horse looks like this, and this horse has a sideways tail, that's fine. We're still going to put it over this horse. But if you're kind of trying to decide, you have two horses that are really nice and equal, all other things considered, and one has a crooked tail, that does hurt them. So moving on to our second place horse. Again, this horse isn't set up as nicely as the first horse was. He doesn't have a halter on, so I think he was just staring over the fence. But overall, you can see he's got a cute, expressive head, maybe not as elegant as the first horse. Everything is pretty correct about him. Maybe he's a little steep in the shoulder, a little bit shorter backed than the first place horse here. And, you know, he's not set up perfectly, excuse me, so not as flat in the croup the way he stands, but you could flatten that croup out pretty well if you stood him upright. Where he falls a little bit below this first place horse is, look at the difference in their neck. His neck is short, a little bit too straight up out of his shoulder, which also makes his withers a little more prominent. And he's just kind of lacks some overall muscling and condition. Again, shorter back throws him a little bit more off balance than this horse. So just overall, this is just almost an ideal picture of an Arabian, whereas this horse comes up a little bit short. This is probably more of a riding or a trail horse, where this is a show horse. But again, he shows overall Arabian type. In a regular halter class, I don't think he would place very well, but compared to the other two that I've put in here today, I think he's an excellent second place horse. Now moving on to number 4, that's who we're going to put third. And basically the reason I'm putting him third is he barely looks like an Arabian. Now, is his conformation correct? For the most part. He's much more coarse boned, as you can see. He almost, his legs are not clean. Sure, he's not clipped, but his legs are, he's got thicker bone, not as flat of cannon bones, just not as elegant of a picture overall. He's high in the hip, which is unusual to see, even though these are all 4-year-old and older. He does not have a flat croup. He has a low set tail. He has a steep shoulder. His neck has none of the presence and elegance that this horse does. And although, the only thing I would grant him is that he does have a cute little head and he has a correct bite. And as Ella loves to laugh at, he does have a kind eye. Is it large and expressive? I suppose it is. He even has a little bit of a dish to his head. So we're going to give him that he's got a really beautiful head, but otherwise just not really showing the Arabian type that we're really looking for. And then finally, let's talk about this guy. Now, at first when I looked at him, I thought, well, he must be old, because look at that back, right? But if you look at his color, Arabians do not come in roan. So this is a horse that is gray, and he can't be very old, right? Now, so in my search, I put 4 years and older, so we know he's at least 4, but this is not a 25-year-old horse. This horse has to be under 12, the color that he is, because if he's gray, he should be a lot lighter than that if he's 10 or older. So anyway, age is not an excuse. This is the way this horse looks. This is a huge flaw. Obviously, in any breed, a sway back is a very large flaw. But let's pretend he doesn't even have that sway back. Let's pretend his back is normal. He's way out of proportion, correct? His neck and head look like they belong on a different horse. Now, he also maybe is starting to show, he's not trimmed very well on his feet, but he's maybe starting to show some weakness in those pasterns as well. His tail is pretty low set. He has a very coarse head. In fact, even for a quarter horse, we would not really like that head. I mean, would we accept it? I suppose. But we would not even really like that head on a quarter horse. So although this is a purebred Arabian and he appears to be younger than 12, he just really lacks type, conformation, and balance. So this horse, I'm sure he's a nice horse, but he would be at the bottom of my class in any breed because of those flaws. So our final placings are going to be 2, 3, 4, and 1. So if you want to write down some reasons now that we've kind of talked through the class, and we'll give you a chance to give your reasons at the beginning of practice tomorrow. And if you're too scared to give them in front of the group, that's okay. we'll have you maybe pair off and go give them to one other, maybe member of the senior team if you don't want to do it, and if you're on the senior team and you don't want to do it, you can give it to another member of the senior team. So we will see you all tomorrow at 6 o'clock. I can't wait. Have a good night. Bye-bye.